The film opens in 1869, with two boys burying a chest deep in the woods during the night. The chest contains the game Jumanji, and the boys seem terrified of it. One says, "May God have mercy on his soul," indicating the game's power and danger. The story then transitions to 1969 in the fictional town of Brantford, New Hampshire. Young Alan Parish, the son of a wealthy factory owner, is introduced. Alan is shy, bullied by local kids, and feels out of place even in his own family. One day, Alan gets beat up by the neighborhood kids at his father's shoe factory. He then hears strange drumming noises coming from a construction site. Intrigued, he investigates and discovers a mysterious chest containing the Jumanji board game. Alan takes the game home, unaware of its supernatural powers. That evening, he argues with his father about going to a boarding school, feeling abandoned and misunderstood. The tension between them highlights Alan's struggle to find his identity and confidence. Just as Alan starts packing his stuff up and get away, his friend Sarah arrives at his house. They hear the eerie drum sounds coming from the game and decide to check it out together. Intrigued by its unusual design, he begins reading the rules, which state that players must take turns rolling the dice and that the game does not end until someone reaches the end. The game comes to life as the pieces mysteriously move on their own in response to the dice rolls. Alan rolls the dice, and suddenly, a cryptic message appears in the game. "In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. Before they can react, Alan is magically sucked into the game, disappearing before Sarah's horrified eyes. Panicked, Sarah also flees the house as she's chased by bats, leaving the game unfinished. The scene shifts to 26 years later in 1995. The once grand Parish mansion is now abandoned and in disrepair, hinting at the long-standing effects of Alan's disappearance. Later, Judy and Peter Shepherd, two young siblings who recently lost their parents in a car accident. They move into the Parish mansion with their aunt, Nora, who hopes to turn the house into a bed and breakfast. As Judy and Peter explore their new home, Judy becomes curious about the mansion's history and learns about the mysterious disappearance of Alan Parish decades earlier. She spins ghost stories to her younger brother Peter, trying to scare him, but Peter remains quiet and reserved, clearly grieving the loss of their parents. The next day, the siblings hear strange drumming sounds, identical to those Alan heard back in 1969. Following the noise, they discover the Jumanji board game tucked away in the attic. Curious and unaware of its danger, they decide to play, setting the stage for the game to unleash its chaos once more. The siblings open the game and read the instructions, unaware of the game's supernatural power. Intrigued by the ominous drumming and the unusual design of the board, they decide to roll the dice and start the game. Judy rolls first, and a cryptic message appears. "A tiny bite can make you itch, make you sneeze, make you twitch." Suddenly, a swarm of giant mosquitoes appears and begins attacking them. Judy bravely hits one through the window while the others escape. Determined to keep going, Peter rolls the dice again. This time, the game releases Alan Parish, now an adult, who had been trapped in the jungle world of Jumanji for 26 years. Alan is initially disoriented and confused, having spent decades in a dangerous and alien environment. He is overjoyed but also overwhelmed to be back in the real world. Alan quickly realizes that the children have found and continued the game he and Sarah started in 1969. He warns them of the game's dangers but also emphasizes that the only way to stop the chaos is to finish the game. However, Alan refuses to continue without Sarah, as she was his original co-player. The trio sets out to find Sarah, who is now an adult and has been living with the trauma of her experience since Alan's disappearance. When they locate her, Sarah is terrified and refuses to go near the game, remembering the horrors it unleashed years ago. Alan convinces her that they have no choice but to finish the game and stop the destruction. Initially resistant, Sarah is overwhelmed by the growing danger and agrees to help. The four of them resume playing the game in the Parish mansion, knowing it is the only way to stop the destruction. Sarah's first role in Jumanji proves to be a harrowing experience as it unleashes chaos within the house. When she rolls the dice, the game displays the message, "They grow much faster than bamboo. Take care, or they'll come after you." Immediately, thick, twisting vines begin to sprout rapidly from the floor and walls of the house. These vines are aggressive and carnivorous, overtaking the space and creating a dangerous environment. One of the larger branches grabs hold of Peter, wrapping around him tightly and dragging him toward its gaping, plant-like mouth. As Peter struggles and cries out for help, Alan springs into action. Using a nearby weapon, he slashes at the vine, freeing Peter just in time before he is swallowed whole. After Sarah takes her turn and unleashes the deadly bamboo vines, the group regains their composure and prepares for the next roll. It is now Alan's turn to play. Reluctantly, he rolls the dice, and the game displays a chilling message. A hunter from the darkest wild, makes you feel just like a child. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the shadows of the house, a menacing and heavily armed hunter named Van Pelt. He is dressed in safari gear, carrying a high-powered rifle, and his sole focus is Alan. Van Pelt represents more than just a physical threat. He symbolizes Alan's childhood fears and insecurities, which Alan has carried with him since his years trapped in Jumanji. Alan immediately runs, dodging bullets as Van Pelt gives chase. Fortunately, Alan manages to lose him and convinces the group to carry on with the game. Judy reluctantly picks up the dice and rolls, prompting the board to display a cryptic message. They come in herds, they trample, they run. Stay out of their way, or you'll be done. Suddenly, the house begins to shake violently, and the group hears a rumbling sound that grows louder by the second. Without warning, a stampede of wild animals bursts through the walls of the house. Elephants, rhinos, zebras, and other large creatures charge through the mansion, causing utter destruction as furniture is smashed, walls collapse, and the floor buckles under the weight of the chaos. In the midst of the stampede, a large bird, resembling a giant pelican, swoops down. The bird spots the game on the floor, grabs it in its beak, and flies off with it. The group panics, knowing that without the game, they cannot finish or stop the devastation it has unleashed. After hours of tracing the pelican, Alan finds it by the lake and tries to retrieve the game. Unfortunately, the game gets pushed by the current, but Peter manages to retrieve it. Following Judy's roll that unleashed the stampede of wild animals, the group is in full survival mode. They quickly realize that the animals are not just confined to the house anymore, they are wreaking havoc on the town, with no sign of stopping. The group is now increasingly aware that every roll of the dice will push them further into danger, with the pressure mounting to finish the game as quickly as possible before the situation becomes even more deadly. It's now Sarah's turn to roll the dice, and after everything that has happened, she's both anxious and fearful of what will come next. As Sarah hesitates, the game board reacts, and the message appears: a monsoon, a storm, a terrible sight, flooding the house. Oh, what a fright. Suddenly, the sky inside the house seems to darken, and a torrential rainstorm begins to pour down within the walls of the mansion. Water begins flooding the floors and filling the rooms, turning the house into a makeshift water park as the rain pours in, soaking everyone inside. The house becomes chaotic as water rises up, threatening to drown the group. Later, Alan rolls the dice, and the final message is revealed: Jumanji. With Alan's roll, the game begins to reverse all of the destruction it has caused. The storm calms, the wild animals vanish, and the house returns to normal. The massive vines retract, the stampede ends, and Van Pelt disappears, vanishing into thin air. As the game's influence dissipates, Sarah and Alan are also returned to the moment before they started playing, back in 1969, when they were children. The board game has returned to its original form, and the once abandoned Parish mansion is now in pristine condition. Make sure to like and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.